Welcome to the Win at Home First podcast. I'm your host, Corey Carlson. This podcast is where we talk about how successful business leaders win, not only at work, but also at home. On this podcast, we'll go behind the scenes with great leaders to hear stories of how they win. Thank you for listening, and on to today's episode. Hello, this is Corey. Today's episode, Kent Wellington, is a great one with lots of different nuggets. And Kent is a successful attorney, has a couple nonprofits, but what we talk about are, he's won a home first twice. And so his first wife passed away from cancer. And so the lessons that he learned during that time and how you and I can apply them to our own homes now. He's involved in two nonprofits. We talk about how does he manage his time and prioritization, things that will help you and I in our own lives. Let's talk about a vision statement that he has, that he uses kind of as a through line to all that he does, plus his new fiance and how they have a vision statement for their life. So a lot of neat things that we can apply to our lives to help us win at home and win at work. I hope you enjoy this episode as much as I did the conversation. Thank you. Hello, it's Corey Carlson, and welcome to the Win at Home First podcast. Today I'm with Kent Wellington, and he's just a man that I've had a chance to be in a mastermind with before and just see and watch him do a lot of neat things. He's an attorney. He has two kids. He has started basically almost two nonprofits. We'll talk about more of those as we go along. One called Saturday Hoops, and the other is Kent Wellington Foundation for Living with Breast Cancer, which is a foundation of his wife who had passed away. And he just does a lot of amazing things. And so when I had a chance to talk to you, Kent, on the podcast, I was very grateful for the opportunity. So thank you very much for being here today.
Thanks. Glad to be here, Corey.
So Kent, what is that key trait that leaders need to have to win at home and at work?
Well, I always say it's faith and a sense of humor, and I'm not sure which is more important, but I know they are related.
And kind of diving into your story a little bit already, and we talked about the foundation. Your wife passed away from cancer, and so how did faith and sense of humor look during that time? How were you able to, stay strong?
Yeah. Well, Karen was diagnosed with breast cancer at the ripe old age of 30. Our kids were 1 and almost 3. And she battled it for 10 years and died in 2007 at the age of 40. But, there were a lot of ups and downs there. But I think we were able together and with our family and friend group to really lean on our faith. I say a sense of humor because, when the wheels are coming off, everything goes wrong at times. So, having a little gallows humor doesn't hurt. In fact, we would end each evening, not just with prayer, but with a Seinfeld episode. So we went to bed with some laughter. I think that really translates to winning at home and winning at work. You got to be positive. And when things are really looking the worst, oftentimes, that's God using you and using what he's thrown in front of you and giving you a chance to react to it in a way that might have a positive ripple effect that you don't anticipate.
Well, you have two kids. How old were they when Karen passed away?
The youngest was 10 and the oldest was 12. So they were in 4th and 6th grade.
You and I have talked about this before, but my mom died when she was 40 and I was 15. And talking to you in previous conversations and seeing a lot of how you sound like you led your home is a lot how I know my dad led her home, because after my mom passed away, there was, 3 kids at, 15, 12, and 11. And here you are with 12 and 10.
Yeah.
And what I find fascinating, Kent, is a successful attorney, but yet you were still able to be a single parent, lead your kids well. When I talk to leaders all the time now, it's like, I don't have enough time. I'm too busy. How did you, looking back at that time when you have the 10 and 12-year-old and obviously going into the teenage years, as an attorney, as a single parent, how were you basically winning the day so that you could succeed in both areas?
Yeah, it wasn't easy. It's all about rhythms and healthy rhythms and learning from your mistakes. Fortunately, I work at a great firm. The Graydon Law Firm is the oldest firm in Cincinnati, celebrating our 150th anniversary today. I'm in my 30th year here. And, they were very accommodating to me. I continued to work. We called Christ Hospital up the hill in Mount Auburn bed and breakfast because we were there so much. And I would often roll off the hill late at night when things were under control and get back in the office. So the work-life balance is a bit of a challenge. And then, you really need to prioritize. Everyone's got 24 hours in a day. No one's got any more than anyone else. So you got to prioritize around what's important. So, faith foundation is crucial. If you build your life on a faith foundation, on a rock, when the storms come, you're better able to move forward. Second were my two kids. I didn't really have a whole lot of time to feel sorry for myself. I'm sure your dad saw it as well. They needed to get up and go to school. And the other thing, their mom was so strong that I had to kind of prove to them right away that dad could pull this off.
Yeah. Yeah. I think in my scenario, man, Lord willing, nothing was to happen to Ollie, but if something was to happen, Ollie carries a house. So I would have to prove myself. Heck, they don't look forward to when Ollie's out of town because I have to make the sandwiches or whatever. And I mess those up. Your faith being strong, then how did you lead home with your faith? Because I know I'll talk with a lot of business leaders and, I went to go talk faith and the kids rolled their eyes when I went to do a devotion or Dad, we always talk about God. How did you push through that, but yet pull them along because you still have a very close relationship with them now? And matter of fact, your daughter's involved in your foundation. So how did you manage to lead with faith, but yet not scare your kids off?
Yeah, I think was always a part of our family. Our kids went to faith-based schools. We were regulars at church. We talked about it. But, as your kids get older, it's kind of the old adage when Marvin Lewis was with the Bengals and Ocho Cinco was always talking about how great he was. Marvin Lewis used to say, I see better than I hear. And as my kids got older and became teenagers, they too see better than they hear. So it was less about what I was saying and more about what I was doing and how I was behaving and where I was putting my priorities. And, with these, family ministries, I call them, that we work on outside of the workday, they got to see Dad making some priorities that I think were very faith fundamental. And I'm not surprised that they have continued to be very involved in those efforts. And that was all because of the rhythms that our family just got in before Karen passed away and during the 10 years of cancer, and that we just continued.
One of those is Saturday Hoops, which I'll let you, my family's participated a few different times in Saturday Hoops. And just, I guess, do a brief deal on Saturday Hoops. Why did you get involved in that? And with limited time, everything we talk about, why was that a choice that you said yes to?
Well, I think it was God-led. I think both the family ministries were very God-led. When my 26-year-old was a first or second grader, we connected with a guy named Ed Berg, who was a urban missionary from the west side of town, and a guy named Joe Wilmers, who was a social worker at Washington Park Elementary. And we started meeting on Saturdays with, some Hyde Park kids and some downtown kids and playing basketball. We had about 700 vulnerable kids, about 500 volunteers meet every Saturday. We've got a faith component. We start with faith, end with faith. It went from basketball for boys to co-ed. We now have circuit training and yoga and a reading room. We have a huddle. La Soup brings breakfast. A different outside group brings in lunch. And then we just hammer home our faith-based core values. And that are three things. Our kids are cheerful givers. God loves a cheerful giver, and so do we. Yep. Hard workers and overcomers. Those three things really connected. We have a pledge that we do that weave those in. We also preach to the kids what we call the X. And that means different things in this town. But for us, it means the upward escalator in life is faith and education. Work on those things. Don't worry about all the craziness and the drama in your life. You work on your faith foundation. you do your homework, you work on your education, you do well in school, things tend to work out for you. That's because you're on an upward escalator that's taking you places. And then we preach the downward escalator. That's the other part of the X. Yeah. That's guns and drugs. You get on that path, it's a race to the bottom. Mm-hmm. Our kids know that. So every week, if we see our kids in the community, even if we can't shout to them, we can give them X. We can remind them of that. We can remind them of our core values. So it's worked. And, we're in over the Rhine in the West End. And we piloted a location in Winton Terrace, which is probably one of the most difficult parts of town right now, but full of kids with potential. That was going great before COVID hit. Yeah. In weeks, we had 150 new kids and 50 new volunteers, and we had some really great partnerships. So we're really excited to get back there, and some of the other communities as well. Avondale's knocking on the door, and I could see a day where there's a Saturday Hoops in virtually all of these Cincinnati Recreation Commission facilities that often are dormant on Saturdays.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Congratulations on doing that and what you do. Before we dive into your other foundation, the question I'm thinking, I know others are listening, is, all right, great, Kent, you've got Saturday Hoops, you've got this other foundation, and yes, your kids are out of the house, and so maybe that freed up some time, but you're still a very busy attorney. How do you stay focused on, the different pieces? What is the kind of the mindset rhythm that you're running? Being an attorney, I mean, things are dialed down to the minute. So right. You probably got a way to do it.
We are, but they're very consistent. All three, mm-hmm. Being a lawyer, working with Karen's Foundation that we'll talk about with vulnerable kids, you're a problem solver. That's what it's all about. And, I tend to focus on the biggest problem. If we have a Saturday Hoops kid who's gotten into some trouble or needs some advice, or better yet, a Saturday Hoops kid without a father, mm-hmm. who has called me because he wants to tell me about something good that has happened to him, and he doesn't have someone to tell that to. I make time for those people. If we're dealing with a late stage person with Karen's Foundation, I'll make time for them. And often clients are, very time sensitive issues. So, you really have to balance them and be ready to move. And I do a lot on the go. I move 100 miles an hour, but, I really kind of keep that focus on, who is the priority of the day, what problem, what fire is raging the most, and put those out without the fire consuming me and my family and my friend group.
Mm-hmm. And so you're going 100 miles an hour. Obviously, your faith is strong. What does your daily practice look like to get in the Word, to get grounded, to hear from God? Are you a 4:30 a.m. guy, or when are you in the Word and thinking through next steps?
I'm a night owl. I do start the day with the Bible app. So my fiance Lexi and I always start the day with the Bible app, and the weekend we work on our faith as well. And I like to go, in good times, I like to go to to a service on a Saturday, before we go out to dinner. It kind of frames the question and gets us focused on our faith, and that really runs through everything we do. So being engaged to a person of strong faith has been huge. I mean, there's so much we do together, when we're on a walk, we are talking about things that are expanding the kingdom of God. It's just very evident to us. It's not easy.
No.
It's not for anyone. But, Galatians 6:9 is, my verse, brother. Do not grow tired of doing good.
Yeah.
That is what it's all about. And, with a lot of our family ministries, people will grow tired. They'll run 100 meters or they'll run a 5K. So, which is fine. But I want to be a marathoner on those things that God puts in front of us. So that takes planning. That takes taking care of yourself. You got to get rest.
Yeah.
I'm a sports guy, so I'm always running, biking, or swimming, and that's often my one-on-one time with God. So I fit that in at healthy times.
Thank you very much for listening to today's episode. I hope you are enjoying it so far. Before we go back to the rest of this episode, I want to share with you my book, Win at Home First. Some of you have read it, so thank you very much. For others of you, you have not. And I encourage, if you're looking for a resource to help you with these times of your work is now in your home and your home is now in your work, and what this looks like. This book is being helpful to many leaders like you. Forbes magazine said it was one of 7 books everyone on your team should read. And the book is broken up into 4 different sections to help you. First is about you, understand who you are. The second is marriage and ideas and tips to help with your marriage. Third is parenting. And then last is work. So these 4 different sections to help you recalibrate during this time and to help move forward. So if you are needing additional resources, I encourage you to check out my book, Win at Home First. It is available on Amazon as well as Audible. And so on to the rest of the episode. Thank you very much. So Kent Wellington Foundation, yeah, tell me about that and how you started that. That's a big, bold move to start a foundation and then to just continue building into it.
Well, it was never the plan. You know,
Right.
we always joke we have 2 family ministries, and one we picked and one picked us. So, you know, we picked the basketball. I was a college football and basketball player, and I worked basketball camps in the summer. So Saturday Hoops is just right in my wheelhouse in many ways. Kent's Foundation was not at all. I mean, I didn't have cancer on the to-do list until it showed up.
You want to get away from cancer. No need, circling around it more.
Right. So, you know, she battled, and she was a, wonderful role model. You know, she did a lot after cancer. She painted after cancer, she's diagnosed with cancer. She sang in a cover band after being diagnosed. She coached her kids' soccer team. She was a pizza mom at school. She decorated houses. She did all these, great things. And then, when we lost her in July of 2007, we were in hospice, and the phone rang. And it was the newspaper wanting to know where the flowers should go. And I thought back to a very brief conversation we had had years before, where she said to me after chemo one day, wouldn't it be cool if once we beat cancer, we could go on a vacation each year and we could send someone else in the chemotherapy chairs next to me? So we could not even think about doing that during the 10 years we were battling cancer. But that day we said, okay, no flowers. Let's collect some money and let's send one woman and her family on a vacation. And one led to 2, and 2 led to 5, and 5 led to 20. And, we're now in year 14, and we just gave our 1,000th gift of fun. It was a vacation to this is appropriate for COVID 2020. It was a vacation for a ICU nurse who had breast cancer at the Christ Hospital, and she had to put her wedding on hold. So we're sending her and her fiance to Maui for a destination wedding in 2021. So it's really cruised along, and we've got chapters in other cities, and it's just completely God-led. I mean, don't get me wrong. We've got a wonderful group of mainly women who just work their tail off, but it's a real labor of love, and it's just a joy to work with.
Oh man, that is unbelievable. And 1,000 families. That is so neat. Well, I mean, well done. And thank you for doing that as a family that, had a cancer, as I mentioned, my mom, and we never went on vacation like that, but just knowing what that must be like for those families, man. Yeah. Thank you. It's incredible.
It's important, about 30% of our vacations are last vacations. So, as you and I know, it's important that you end well. And, if that last image we can leave that family with, those kids with, of mom with the smile on her face, with a glass of Chardonnay on the beach with a bandana on her head, laughing at dad, being silly, that's a pretty good last image, because those images are going to last a long time. Yeah.
Unbelievable. So you probably got a book already brewing in your mind of things to think about, but you experiencing Kent's kind of, her last days, you made a comment that all these things she did after cancer, the painting, you've been close to these 1,000 families and seeing 30% of them being last vacations. I mean, is there something you're telling people all the time of make sure you do these things, or live bold, or, are you coming up with these like 3 taglines or something of just like, almost like kicking people in the butt. Like, let's go, get off your phone and get after it.
Yeah. Life's all a sports metaphor to me because half my brain is useless sports knowledge. But when I'm coaching kids in basketball, there's two things I say. On the offense at the end of the field, of the floor, I tell them to move. The easiest guy to guard is the guy who stands still. So you got to move. And that's the same thing in life. You can't be looking at the past. You got to move forward. And on the defensive end of the floor, I always played man-to-man defense. The thing I always am constantly yelling at the kids is help. Help. The only thing that's can score is the ball. So see your man and see the ball. So move and help. And that's really what it's all about. And the great thing about Karen's foundation is that the women who go on these trips get this as well. What we say is that going on vacation is great, but they really are living with breast cancer when they come home and they take off the victim's hat and put on the giver's hat and try to do something nice through our foundation, through someone they know in the chemo chairs. Exactly what Karen was looking at. And it's amazing. They just come alive. A big part of the foundation are the 70% of recipients who stick around. And, that's the lifeblood of what we're doing. We've got chapters in South Florida and in Boston and in Nashville and Dayton and Columbus and Cleveland and other places as well. And there's going to be growth there. That's great. And then we've also really been able to harness at a young age these little people who see what we're doing. As first graders, they help send their teacher's sister on a vacation with an out of uniform day at school or a pink lemonade sale. And then they get a little older and they send someone else. And then they get on to high school. And my daughter sent the school custodian, her senior class on a trip on senior night. When my son was at UC, and to this day, the Greek system there looks out for those University of Cincinnati moms living with breast cancer, and they all bond together and send it forward. And now that they're adults on their own, they're thinking about people in the workplace or people you see it, people you see at Kroger, who are clearly, battling cancer, or people you hear about. We really want to reach all of them. Our vision for Karen's Foundation is that all women living with breast cancer will experience fun now before it's too late.
So for someone who sees that woman or has that woman in their life, I go to the website and submit the name, and I'm sure there's this whole step-by-step process to make it happen.
Yeah, it's pretty easy. It's a real simple model. We have 100 plus families who are fortunate enough to have vacation homes. So people like that give us a week a year. So, the sun's shining on them. And then we have this other camp over here who is going through the worst year of their lives. And if we introduce the two, we're the bridge between the two. We connect those vacation homes with people who don't use 52 weeks a year. We just say, give us one a year with someone who just needs a break. And we do spa days, and we do Bruce Springsteen concerts in Chicago, and we do zip lining and whatever's fun and unique to folks. We did a ZZ Top concert here in Cincinnati, and as often happens, the family was too sick to go. So we said, no problem. And we just had them go to their oncologist and printed out the concert schedule. And he circled a date that fit within their treatment protocol. We flew them to St. Louis, and they got backstage passes. And it was just a wonderful thing. It turned out to be a last vacation. But I'll tell you what, that was pretty sensational last vacation that was on their Christmas card that year.
Yeah, way to go out in style. My goodness.
Yep. Oh, wow. Yeah.
You got a ton going on already that God's speaking to you. What are you hearing from God right now?
I'm hearing more of the same. I'm hearing Galatians 6:9. Don't grow tired of doing good. I tell my kids all the time that when things are going well in one of these ministries, and we've done a lot of, philanthropic things, as a lot of people in this awesome community have done. But, when things are going well, when it seems like the wind is at your back, that's God saying, go, move. Do more, get to more people. There are millions of people living with cancer, millions of people who are going to be diagnosed this year. There are millions of people who have vacation homes that aren't going to be used this year. Let's connect them. Let's connect them and see what happens. There are great people in our community who would be wonderful mentors and role models to vulnerable kids. But, how do you connect them? Once again, Saturday Hoops is a bridge. We put all of these vulnerable kids and all these caring adults under one roof or two roofs or one park, and we just have them find a way to engage.
Wow.
Common denominator is a faith foundation, but we don't get overly caught up on that. People will ask, hey, I don't have, my faith isn't where it should be. And we say, come on in. In fact, every week when we train our volunteers at Saturday Hoops, we say, you can help our kids see God, or you can help them see good. You pick. It's fruit from the same tree. The words are very similar, but it's moving in the same direction.
Yeah. I like how you made a comment about one of the nonprofits, the foundations found you, and then you found the other one.
Yeah.
And I actually just had a call with an individual right before you and I got on. But basically, my encouragement to him is I've been shared with myself is this idea is everywhere we go have open hands as opposed to closed hands. Like if we have closed hands of, hey, I'm busy or I can't do this or this is what I believe my vision for my life is. If we're closed fisted, then of course we're not going to have any nonprofit come out to us. But if we go into life just open-handed, there's could be some amazing relationships, amazing callings we hear from God that we can be obedient to. So yeah. I love how you just modeled that so well.
Yeah, I think we haven't been afraid to swing for the fences as well. I think, my fiance Alexia and I talk about this all the time. I mean, we believe in a God who thinks big. He wants us going for it. He wants us, our prayer, one of our goals right now, and we just got back from Tampa, St. Pete, is to own a vacation home that we can give 52 weeks a year to women and families living with breast cancer. And we've, we're praying about it, we're dreaming about it. And if that drops in our lap, great. If not, we're going to need to do something about it to get it.
Very neat. And it's neat how your fiance supports everything. Obviously, that's why you would not be engaged if it didn't. But it reminds me of my stepmom who supports everything that happened with my birth mom's life and will acknowledge even her birthday to this day. And it's like, wow, it's so neat. So that you've got that. Ken, as you talk a lot about, you get passionate about Saturday Hoops, you get passionate about the Kent Wellington Foundation, which I completely understand. How do you stay focused at work? Like, how do you still be excited about work? Because I'll work with a lot of individuals and clients who they just kind of get bored. They get bored with the day job, and there's kind of other shiny objects that are out there that they want to go do. And so what is your recommendation, advice to them? I mean, how do you continue to excel at your, attorney job when you get all these other neat things you could be doing?
Yeah, I think you kind of remake yourself over and over. I mean, I clerked with Graydon the summer of 1990. So this is how long ago. The Bengals had just been to the Super Bowl. The Reds went wire to wire and won the World Series in 1990. So that's, when I started here. But I've done a variety of different things at this firm, from leadership positions to different practice areas. Right now, one of the things I like to do with a tax and not-for-profit lawyer is advise other families who want to start a family foundation. So, so Matt Lake in our office is great with the technical stuff. I've obviously formed family foundations and learned, and we've hired people and we've moved in different states and dealt with different state laws. And to me, that's very interesting. And whether you're coming to me with breast cancer or you're coming to me with, you want to honor a daughter who was an opioid victim, or you have a successful construction business and you want to give back to your community, you want to start your own 501c3, or if you just wanted to use one of the great organizations in town, like the Greater Cincinnati Foundation or the Cincinnati Scholarship Foundation, to set it up. I know enough people in those areas, and I've done this enough myself that I can be of value, and I can weave the family ministries into the practice of law in a way that helps these other families with work and with their passions.
Mm-hmm. Do you have a personal vision statement?
I do. Yeah.
What is it?
It is to build and inspire a community of goodness for healing others. And that was, my fiance Alexia is a coach, and we worked on that. And in fact, we put a mission statement together. Her mission is around freedom. Mine is around goodness.
Mm-hmm.
And we put those together and we focus on that. So it's been helpful. And a lot of our team members with the foundation in particular, they will be quick to let you know what their mission statements are. They all kind of weave in some way with the foundation, but it's different for different people. And, people are wired differently, but we've been pretty intentional about figuring out, what our mission is, not just as a foundation, but as individuals and in Alexia, my experience together.
And I completely agree and love that, in the fact that your vision statement that you mentioned becomes a through line, and you're able to integrate everything you do, because it's not this compartmentalized life that you're living, but instead Saturday Hoops, Kent Wellington, or Graydon, and even as a fiance and then soon to be husband, you're able to live out that vision. One of the first things we'll do, like through our coaching program, is help identify, do you have a vision?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people don't have a personal vision. And I know from my own life, when I put together my vision statement years ago, where it's connect people to greater performance and even more significant purpose.
Yeah,
I could do that if I was president of sales for the national contractor like I was, or whether I'm coaching, but it helps me think through how I show up each day. Same thing with you. And so when I have a lot of people who start to lose their way at work or start to think, oh, I don't know what to do next, it's like, who are you? Like, what is your vision? What are you about? And so it's neat to hear you say that. Then the second piece is working with couples and or families, depending on where they're at.
Right.
What is your vision and values for your family? And it seems like you guys are already doing that, and it's good stuff. And that's why I asked, because I'm like, you've got to have that through line. I can just tell by hearing you talk.
Yeah, I do. I don't hesitate to talk to clients. I mean, whether it's about my faith or this through line you're talking about, I mean, it's often directly relevant to what they're going through. I talked about the family foundation work I do. That was kind of new. That came after we started Karen's foundation. I've been a labor and employment lawyer, a people lawyer. I deal with individuals who are dealing with death, and, injury cases. And you need to bring more than a law degree to those family rooms. You better bring a lot more than that. And if all you're thinking about are the legal issues, it's not going to work out. It is not going to work out.
It's hard to be empathetic when you're just thinking policies.
Yeah. And, you need to be objective. Once they trust you and they kind of know, you've been through the washing machine yourself, you can be objective and you can point out to them that, there is still a lot of goodness out there. There's still some lemonade that can be made out of these lemons that you're facing. That this employment situation that looks like it's the end of the world, I think God has bigger plans for you.
And you can be, I love that. It's that truth and grace, where you're inviting that relationship, but then you're challenging them to say, hey, just don't wallow in your sadness. Instead, let's go forward. Yeah. Let's move forward, right?
Yeah. I tell people all the time, I said, the sun will shine again. All right. They've lost a loved one and it doesn't look like it's going to, but the sun will shine again. And the best way to accelerate that process is to be a giver. At Karen's Foundation, we follow a give first philosophy. What we are hyper focused on giving. And every year there's still a few loaves of bread and a few fish left over, even though we've been super focused on giving. When we start a chapter, we tell the chapters, and we've never started a chapter on our own. They've always reached out to us. So we say, okay, this first year, give. Don't ask for anything. Just go find people who are having the worst year of their lives in Nashville or South Florida or Columbus and give. And what we found is there is this backdraft, this ripple effect that just permeates through, and people want to get involved, and we continue to grow and grow. The other thing is, as a person of faith, I say this all the time, and no one believes me. I have zero concern of failing. If we run out of fish, if we run out of bread, and we run out of money, that's God saying, I got another plan for you.
Oh, man, that's good to hear. As business owner myself, and just as I work with a lot of individuals, I mean, failure causes a lot of people not to take big, bold steps, not to move forward.
Yeah.
And so for you, I love that idea of, so how do you step forward not knowing if all the resources are going to be there? Is it just one step at a time? And God will shut the door if it's not meant to be?
It is, but I would be, lying if I didn't say it was a little easier now. I mean, I'm year 17 of Saturday Hoops. I'm in year 14 of Karen's Foundation. God has proven himself year after year. But it's a little bit like living with cancer, because people would always say, they see me in year 9 and 10 and they'd be like, how do you do it? You got these little kids and, you got work. How do you do it? I'm like, well, I'm in year 9 and 10. I'm not in year 1. If I had to be year 9 cancer in year 1, I wouldn't be able to handle it. I'd be in the fetal position, but because I've been strengthened through God and the Faith Foundation, and I saw that we could get through cancer in year 2 and in year 3, even though the stakes have gotten higher, the cancer became more ubiquitous. The challenges were more difficult. The treatments weren't covered by insurance. The financial burdens of, having a house, a mortgage, and a couple kids that, needed to go to school, college one day, it's tough, but you get through that and you look back and you think, all right, God carried me through that. There's nothing he can't carry me through.
I know when I hit my low points, reflection is such a powerful tool, because you hit your low points, you reflect, and it's like, hey, God got me this far. He's not going to just leave me hanging. He got, Kent Wellington Foundation this far. It's not just going to end, and like you said, if there is different plans, then new doors will open up. And so it is encouragement to take more risk.
Yeah. Some days I think it would be easier if one of them did it. But I'm not in control of that. God control that. You've got to be focused on that path that's put forward in front of you, and be willing to pivot when, things show up. That's why it's important, to have friends and people to kind of help you on this faith journey, and coaches like you to help move you along and point out what God's calling you to do.
Yeah, I just try to help encourage and give accountability. Hey, you said you're going to do this. Why don't we do this?
Yeah.
So Kent, you got any ideas or new things in early days?
I would say more of the same. I talked about the dream of owning a vacation home. That's got me kind of jazzed up.
Yeah, that's good.
The day, this was a God moment, the day we got done looking at houses with a real estate investment guy who's a friend of the foundation down in Tampa, St. Pete. We're tired, we've looked, it's got to, properties is more expensive than we expected, but it's so perfect. The climate's so perfect for our families who just need a break.
Yeah.
We're driving back to the hotel and the phone rings, and it's a buddy in Atlanta who calls and says, hey, we're thinking about being a little more generous to the foundation. And have you guys ever thought about buying a vacation home of your own?
Oh my goodness.
And they mentioned a number that was a nice number. And I turned to Alexia and we just, said, all right. Now the signs we get from God are not always that direct, but
they're not always a phone call from Atlanta.
No, somebody with money. Wouldn't it be great if that was that easy? But
I need to start using your Bible app that gets you a direct phone calls. I can have some quiet times. Oh man.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Kent, I love what you're doing. Not only you are impacting lives in Cincinnati, but now it's just obvious it's going national as you continue to impact more. So thank you for what you do. Thank you for the time here today on the Win Home First podcast. And just, man, I'm inspired and excited. I know the listeners will. What's the best way for people to get a hold of you, Kent?
You can Google me pretty easy, Kent Wellington. It won't be hard to find me, but Kent Wellington Foundation is alive and well on the internet and through social media, as is Saturday Hoops, which is a program of the Cincinnati Youth Collaborative. So, and if it's a Saturday morning, you can probably find me on a basketball court somewhere. And during Pink October, you can probably find me at some event pouring into some women and families living with breast cancer.
Incredible. Kent, thank you very much for your time and for what you do.
Thanks, Corey. Appreciate the opportunity.
I want to thank you for listening to my podcast, Win at Home First. I am so grateful to hear from listeners like you that this content has been helpful. So now I would love for you to pay it forward. I want to get this message in the hands of more listeners. We need leaders to be winning both at home and at work, especially during this time. So please take a minute to share this episode with somebody you think would find value in it, as well as rate and subscribe. As a thank you, please visit my website at coreymcarlson.com to download a free resource that people are finding value in. Thank you very much.
This is thepodcastfactory.com.